Welcome back, everybody, to the Derby City Fandom podcast. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Hey.
Today, once again, we are talking about Star Wars. Jake, how are you feeling?
Good. Colin, how you feeling?
You know, that intro always gets me hyped.
Fair enough.
It just does. But we're doing Skeleton Crew.
Yes, we're doing the newest thing,
Yeah.
Skeleton Crew.
Yep.
All right, before we go deep into the ratings like Colin normally likes to do, first impressions of the series here. We can start with Colin.
I will say, looking way back in the day, for the trailer and all that stuff that was coming out, getting us ready for this show, I was legit hyped. Especially with all the other Star Wars show series that came out during that time. Just a different take. I was open-minded. I'm a Star Wars fan and always will be. Obviously, I have my favorites and least favorites of the Star Wars universe.
Right.
Just like anybody else for, Marvel or any other universe that we can think of. But at the beginning, I was open-minded, probably a little bit hyped, and then the first episode came out, and I was disappointed.
I think I was in that same boat, but I'll let you continue.
Yeah, no, I was definitely disappointed. Then the series started to progress, and then essentially, I don't know if y'all got into this mindset, but I definitely saw a just Goonies that took place in space.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely the vibe it went for as we went through. So I was going to talk about the elephant in the room.
You want 'cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate. You're a pirate indeed. Being a pirate is all right to be. Do what you want 'cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate.
So this is definitely just Treasure Island / The Goonies.
Yep.
With a Star Wars coat of paint on it, which I think is perfectly fine. It's a bit outside of my wheelhouse. I feel like this is almost entirely designed to become like an attraction at Disney World in the next 4 to 5 years.
I can see that.
Oh, I didn't think of it like the lens of the theme parks. You're
No,
probably right.
No, yeah.
It has
probably
that
right.
vibe. Like, they just, make a Pirates of the Caribbean ride part 2.
Yeah. Pirates go to space.
Pirates go to space. Treasure Planet, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Treasure Planet's already a movie.
Yeah.
Good one, too, by the way.
Good one. Go watch it. Anyways. But once you kind of know that that's where it's going, it's like, oh, the story's already been explained. So that was kind of my thing.
Jake?
Going into it, I went a little bit blind. I didn't know what to expect. I was excited for it because it is Star Wars, and I do love Star Wars. With that said, after seeing the whole series, I had Goonies vibe written all over it, and I left a little. I mean, I hated the ending for sure, but it was just a little too childish for me. But overall, I'm not as negative as probably you guys will be about it. Overly, I enjoyed it. I think it was a fun watch. I really love the one thing I really like about Star Wars, and probably a lot of the series besides Star Wars, is I love like the planet building. So I don't really get caught up too much in the storyline, the plot, although it is important. But this series showed us some really cool planets.
Sure.
And like the whole Star Wars film, and on top of that, they had the fun mystery of what Jude Law's character was. Like, is he a Jedi? Is he not a Jedi? So kind of some of those things I really appreciated. But with that said, the one negative portion I have about it is a little too childish for me.
You see, I kind of agree with you there, but I think what would have made it better for me is if this series was actually longer. It felt too short. To me, at least, because I don't feel like they actually spend a whole lot of time trying to solve the various mysteries. like within the show. It's like, oh, how do we get back home? It's like, okay, well, we're going to go to this one planet to try to find a map. Well, that only half works. Let's go to this next planet. There's some stuff missing there. How do we get around that? Within 10 minutes they figured it out.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the kind of comedic childish plot, though, right? They have some serious plot armor, but on top of that, they literally come from a bubble, like they live in a bubble, so they don't really know. I think
I did not like that.
Yeah, like
Everything
someone told me
was
like they weren't even
sterile.
aware that there's like a war going on, a galactic war going on. So it's like
The war's already over. This is after.
Yeah, this is so to give context. This is actually 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of in that same timeline. No, it is in that same timeline as the Mandalorian, right?
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah. So, like you are saying, this is a planet full of individuals, creatures, humans, whatever alike that are shielded, bubbled, sheltered from the outside world.
mm-hmm.
Worlds, plural, sorry.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah. So we know a lot more about what's going on, so we can't, be necessarily upset because this is a sheltered planet and they don't know what's going on, but we do. So you have to keep that in your mind, but at the same time, I understand what you're saying. I was frustrated the entire damn time. I'm freaking like, all right, there's some shit going on outside of y'all's fucking bubble. Y'all just need to leave the planet and see how shit is hitting the fan, literally.
Right, but they weren't allowed to.
But you're not allowed to. And
Yes.
it turns out the planet at Aten had some shit on its own.
Oh yeah, some intrigue, I suppose, but from
we're
an
not-
economics standpoint, we'll talk about it later, and I would like to
We're
argue
not.
this with.
That's not revealed to us until much later in the series. So like, in the beginning, they find this ship, and we're all thinking like this is some Jedi ship. Nope, it's not a Jedi ship at all. It turns out to be a ship that belonged to a pirate back in the day.
Yeah.
And then.
And you don't even realize that, but we're met with what I think is becoming the staple for every new Star Wars IP that comes out, which is you got to have some unique droid and you got to have some random unique furry thing.
Yep.
So to market. So we see SM-33, and
Right.
very clearly a pirate because he's missing an eye.
Yeah.
And then you got the bilge rat that, lives in his head.
Yep.
Like, literally.
Yep.
So that's, like, your first hint that, pirate. Other than, they're going around the ship, and you see one of them put on, like, a pirate hat. Like,
Yep.
even in, long ago in a galaxy far away, they have pirate hats.
Yeah. So before we dive any further, should we go into my favorite part of the...
Yes. So let's get
dive into the
that.
ratings?
Sure.
All right, so for the Skeleton Crew Season 1, IMDb put at a whopping 7.1 out of 10. And Rotten Tomatoes had at a 92%.
whoa.
Thoughts?
I think that is kind of accurate because this is definitely a show.
Which score is accurate?
The 7.1, I
Okay.
think, is probably the most accurate because this show is designed for a younger audience. Like, it is very clear that it's designed for a younger audience and probably for an audience that has never seen the Goonies before.
Probably, yeah.
Yes, I agree, and it really I hate
that's the elephant
using
in the
that.
room.
I hate using that to describe these shows and movies that are coming out. It's for a younger audience. It's for children only. But
Why? Because you're old now.
Well, because
Yes.
I'm old and I freaking grew up watching this shit, and maybe at the time I don't know, like it. I'm an adult. I'm an almost 34-year-old, and I'm gonna watch Star Wars until it freaking just doesn't exist anymore. But like, I was a 20-something-year-old watching, these kid shows like Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels and all the Ahsoka's bullshit and everything else. Like, yeah, sure, maybe that's for children, but maybe it's for the child and the adult. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's part of it too.
Sure.
But
But,
it's definitely geared towards like parents as well.
I don't know why I get so freaking butthurt when it's like, this is geared towards children. I don't know.
Because it is an easy thing to critique, I think. And I feel like that is why this gets a slightly lower rating just on IMDb, because they tend to try to be a bit more professional with it. While Rotten Tomatoes seems to be more of your conglomeration of all things, basically.
92 or whatever it was is way too high.
92 does seem a bit high.
Somewhere in the 70s, fine. Like I said, I enjoyed the watch. It was definitely for a younger audience. But if they made a season 2, sure, I'd watch it.
Yeah.
So, Jake, you say in the 70s. Kenny, you say where?
I think it's probably at 75. Like, I don't regret watching it. It's just that the first handful of episodes really put me off. I feel like
the ending was disappointing for me.
Ending wasn't
Pretty abrupt.
Wasn't the. Again, it's just like once you find out what Jude Law's character's name is, then you just like the entire thing's spoiled. So I think once I had that spoiled, it's just like, oh, well, I know how this plot line is going to try to go because I've seen Treasure Planet, Treasure Island, and the Goonies before. So it's just like the mystique is gone.
Yeah. So for me, I'd probably give it a 6.9, 7.0, so 70. The show overall plot line was okay-ish. Visually speaking, it was fine by me. As far as like the score goes, it was fine. So like I'm not trying to be too harsh. I didn't freaking hate it.
I actually think I like the score on this one a lot.
It
more
wasn't
than some of the,
bad.
Some of the older ones.
I've heard worse.
Sure.
So, I think I'm comfortable with the 6.9, 7.0, maybe even a 7.1. But I probably wouldn't go any higher than that. Am I gonna watch it again? Probably just as a refresher when or if there is a season 2.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just like we're not the ideal audience for it. Like we're Star Wars fans, and it's definitely Star Wars, but everything else about it, the plot and everything, is just like it's not.
Yeah.
Directed toward us.
Yeah,
it is what it is. I'm not critiquing it for that, but it is.
But I have to watch it because I want to know how all this connects. Kind of like with Marvel, like you have to watch all the shit that comes out just so you know where everything connects. Like for Infinity War and this new freaking saga, whatever the fuck they're calling it now.
Right.
And how that all intersects with, Doctor Doom. Well, same thing with this freaking show. I gotta find out how it connects into the universe of Star Wars. Is it going to overlap with, The Mandalorian or the Ahsoka series, that kind of thing? Like, I'm obviously going to watch every single show that comes out because I want to know how it connects. But like I said earlier, there's going to be my favorite shows and least favorite shows.
I don't remember. Did they ever explain who Jude Law's character? Like he was a Jedi, right, or a former Jedi?
They kind of explained it in like the second to last episode or the last episode. That basically a Jedi had basically found some homeless kid, and he was the homeless kid, kid living in the alley, basically. And realizes that he's force sensitive, and it's just you want to come with me? And
Strange alert. Oh man.
Basically, but Jedi, you have the same sort of reaction that Wim did in the beginning when they first met, because of basically Jedis are fairy tales. That's kind of what they're designed to be when you've lived in a bubble.
Yeah. Quite
literally. But as they're training, naturally, Order 66 happens, and the kid gets away, as most of them somehow manage to do.
Some of them, not most of them.
No,
Some of them.
Some of them. I will say I do appreciate that
So who was his master?
We don't know.
unnamed,
Don't know. All right, sorry to interrupt.
but part of me does appreciate that the color of the lightsaber doesn't really make a difference anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a turnoff or not for some people, but
was for
I
me.
kind of appreciate that, you have people doing evil stuff with a blue lightsaber
Well,
instead of it being
they
red.
play off of it in the intros. Like the intros, you can see the different colors of the helmets and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the exact same thought because the entire time I'm like, I'm trying to figure out who he is. Like, is he a Jedi? Is he not a Jedi? What's his backstory? And when he grabbed the lightsaber, I was like, oh, this would be a huge tell because we'll get to see the light of the lightsaber. But I don't remember what color it was, but I was like,
It was blue the entire time.
because it's like he's not as good as Luke Skywalker, right? So I was assuming it's gonna like glow red, but I was like, or at least white.
That's
I
not
don't
how
know.
the crystals work, but
I don't know.
it is what that is.
Yeah, and that kind of God, how someone could, they touch on it in the Ahsoka series of how a kyber crystal gets, corrupted. They
That
did a
lore's been
horrible job
redone
on it,
so
but
many
they
times.
attempt at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the kyber crystal, they need to do a better job explaining that.
So
I just really liked all the planets though, man. They showed at Atten, which is cool. I mean, it's kind of Earth-like, right?
mhm.
When they go to the Pirate Empire, the Port Borgo,
yeah, they go to like the little port station.
which
Yep.
is
Like-
fun to watch. They're,
And
that's
everybody's just
some
like,
serious
why the hell
Goonie
is there-
stuff there, right?
Like, why the hell is there a kid here? Which is like, some of like I'm not going to call them like morally good pirates, but like, some of the people that are like more aware of like the surroundings, they're like, why are you here? You're like 8.
Yeah.
Then they go to the cool owl character, which is just Disney trying to sell as many stuffed animal owls as possible.
Yeah.
But that's a cool planet, like the observatory moon. I was like, that's pretty
I
sweet. I
find
live
it
there.
Interesting that in a setting where most of everything is already mapped out, that there are still just telescopes.
Yeah.
They still have observatories. Be like, well, our observatories are like the best ever because we can see to the other side of the galaxy, but that's besides the point. It's like when the galaxy's already been majority like mapped out, it's just like it's obsolete. Like, why is it there? Why is it still being used? Well, that's because this fun owl person we will discuss later is just like obsessed with maps, and that's also like another big Treasure Island thing with like Billy Bones like handing off a map, which sets everything in motion.
Yep. So yeah, I think what I enjoyed the most from that series, from this series, is the fact that they had X-wings.
Yeah, it's cool
Yes.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, so like they were only introduced a handful of times and for very short periods. And the fact that we saw them in action, like actually shooting,
And
Let's see.
not, like
not
being
just, like-
on the
not
giving
just-
end of the firing.
yeah, not just like fly by, like it's more of like a whatever.
An acknowledgement that the New Republic has actually
Right.
started. That the rebels won for the moment.
Ooh.
Woo!
Woo! But, all right. Shall we start with, I guess, the plot from the beginning proper this time?
Yeah, let's actually.
So, how do
proper-
you all feel about this kid cast?
fucking?
My favorite one's Neil. I'll go ahead and spoil that.
See,
I
everybody
like
keeps
the
saying
elephant.
that, man. Everybody freaking loves Neil. Even like the directors, like behind the scenes, like freaking Dallas freaking Howard is like, oh, everybody's gonna love Neil, this, that, and the other. And I'm just like, yeah, he was probably one of the only. No, he was in fact the only comedy relief of the entire series. But at the same time, it was mild at best.
Yeah.
Maybe
like he is the Goonies character in this. Like
Yeah.
everyone else is like a Star Wars character.
So
Think
who?
about it.
All right, all right, okay, fine. So who would he be in the Goonies then?
I don't remember each Goonies name, but just like his particular archetype, I feel like is better suited for what's going on because he's just the guy that's inherently dragged along.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So starting from the beginning, Neil. Okay, whatever. And then the other kids. I don't even remember what the fuck their names
You
were.
got KB, you got Wim, and then you have what's her face, Fern.
Fern. Yeah. I kind of did like her sass, her leadership skills and sass.
She's got sass.
Yeah, I like Fern.
She wasn't. Yeah.
Thought Wim was annoying.
Yes, for sure. A little
was trying to
baby back bitch, honestly.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out KB. I was like, is this a droid? Is it a human?
That's
I was
the
confused.
fun part,
Is she just
because-
wearing like a toy on her face? But it ended up being.
I was
ends
just
up
getting
being a
LeVar
lot
Burton
deeper.
from Star Trek vibes, 100%.
Yeah.
SM-33 was cool. I like SM-33.
Sure.
Not 30,
Yeah.
sorry.
The droid.
33.
But yeah, they're all freaking on the home planet. All right, let's start from the beginning. They're on the home planet
At
at Aden, right? And so they're all freaking basically going to school, right? And basically,
There's a big
Yawn.
assessment.
yeah,
that-
they're.
Sorry.
Do you say yawn?
Yeah. But there's a big assessment that is basically like career placement.
Yeah.
Sounds terrible.
It does, and like this whole beginning segment reminds me a lot of like the vault system in Fallout.
In
Because
Fallout, yeah.
everything is curated, everything is like by design.
Yep.
And then the droids, like the security droids, are just like, you know, your standard droids from like back in like Phantom Menace, but they put a camera on top of them instead.
Yeah.
It comes off as
It
like,
pretty much was the body of one of those droids and then a camera put on top.
yeah,
It was just like,
which is fine, acceptable. We see a better one, better droid in SM-33
yeah, for sure.
for sure, but it's just we see the system that is in place, and we see each of the kids, in particular Wim, kind of just dealing with life, being a child in the system.
A whiny little bitch.
Yes. who, Colin,
Go ahead.
acts on a whim.
I see what you did there.
No, that is not even what I did there. They clearly did that on purpose.
I did not connect that. So
Like, this guy
I give you
does
credit.
not hold anything in attention for very long early on. And that shows. But they end up basically ditching school for the day, and they're just out in the forest, and they find a hatch, half exposed.
would you go inside the hatch, Kenny?
I'd be tempted. I'm not going to lie. I'd probably still.
I'd 100% be tempted and actually attempt to open the door and then look inside. And then obviously, like, I'm a freaking kid. I'm going to be curious. I'm going to be touching a bunch of buttons. And somebody tells me, don't touch that button ever. I'm going to touch that button.
Yeah, you never say that. You never say
You never say that to a fucking kid. Ever. Do not do this. Actually,
I think
do
most
this.
adults would touch the button.
Yeah. Tell me not to do something.
Well-
I'm going to do that as an adult.
So, okay, skipping ahead a little bit here. It's funny you say that because normally, like, buttons that you're not supposed to push are, like, big and red. This one is clearly green. It's just like, oh, that's a good button to hit.
Yeah. 100%.
I like that detail. It's like, oh, this is an innocent button instead of a danger button.
But yeah, they end up pushing a button essentially, and that's how the droid comes to, right?
Yeah, it
Well,
starts the
first,
ship.
the ship takes off.
Right.
The ship takes off, and
It's been
Wim's
buried
father-
for
however long.
right.
But ship takes off with the four kids, and it breaks through the barrier set up around the planet.
Which I kind of think is like plot armor because they're able to escape without getting shot down. But if somebody tries to come in, they're able to.
They explain it later.
Did they?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
and we'll
intrigue
get
me.
there.
Okay, well, moving on. They escaped the barrier.
But they escape the barrier, and warp has been hit, so they go to whatever the coordinates were, which we find out is like the
Port Borgo.
the port city basically. But before that happens, they also wake up the skeleton the skeleton of the droid that they find, SM-33, and boy, SM-33 is a character. He's probably my favorite
Yeah, me too.
Yep. It
because
seems to be a common thing because you remember in Rogue One, what was the droid in that?
I'm on it.
help us. Anyways, the droid characters here recently have, like, the ones that talk, I should say, at least, have been gaining a lot more fan favoritism.
K2.
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 Thank you for
Okay.
that. Go ahead, Kenny.
But we see him kind of spring to life, and then you fully start to understand that this is, like, a pirate themed show, because the guy's missing an eye. He starts talking like a pirate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the droid starts with a pirate accent. Like, how can you not love that?
Yeah.
And he's so, like, dedicated to his captain,
Yeah.
whoever the captain may be, and the pirate code.
I got the from his character. I got serious like Master Gibbs vibes from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Mhm.
Gibbs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like just talking about the code. Well, they're more like guidelines, but talking about the code.
More like guidelines
Or like
anyway.
guidelines.
Bloody pirates.
Yeah. But with that in mind, he says, like, well, somebody, like, this is a vessel, like, somebody has to be the captain. So Fern, I think before anybody can really say anything, just like, yeah, no, I'm captain. And from then on, she has a droid lackey with a little bilge rat that, like, chewed out his eye, that likes to live there, that Neil tries to, like, befriend later on.
Oh, they become friends.
Oh, they become friends. But it wasn't always like that. So they go to the port city, and they find out.
They make a terrible mistake as they're taxiing to the port city.
Yes.
They pay. I don't know, what is it called? Atten coin?
Yes.
Or-
Well, Old Republic currency,
Mm-hmm.
which, funny enough, solid gold. So, worth quite a lot of money. A, because they're super scarce, because the Old Republic doesn't exist anymore.
And the kids on that Atten just get them for lunch.
And the kids use them as lunch money. Both literally on their planet and on the port city.
Yeah.
Like, they think nothing of it. But then, like, everybody, like, is a pirate here. So the guy in the cafeteria bar thing is just like, oh, no, I actually need a couple more of those to cover, like, your meal. When it's just like, a couple of these could, like, fund you, like, a small house or something.
Think about it. The kid's ignorant. He didn't know.
Oh, no. And he was willing to do it. Like, they had plenty of it.
But
I'm not blaming the kids. I just thought it was fun to watch.
if
that starts a bar
if
fight.
you're an adult,
Well, Port Borgo, man, I want to go.
this might be
Yeah.
a hot
Seems
take,
like a cool
but
place.
you're an older individual, adult, whatever, and you see a kid just throwing out money, you may exploit that. So
Yeah. And that's what happens.
What is wrong with you?
It's funny because they're in they walk past, like, the red light district. And, like, they
Derby
walk
City
past.
Fandom is having ethics and morals going for Sorry, kidding.
All right. Well, speaking of ethics and morals, so they walk past the brothel, basically.
Hey,
on the-
she was trying to help. all right?
She was. That's where I was
She was
going. That's the
trying to
funny
help.
thing, is that the person trying to invite everyone in actually realized, like, why are there kids here? Like, why'd you come to a pirate city? Like, where's your parents? Like, who's your guardian? Like, why are you here? And they're like, oh, no, we came by ourselves. And then basically after a sequence, they get thrown into the brig.
Yep.
And they're like, "What's a brig?" It's like these kids that are so sheltered, they have like no knowledge of like what jail is, and they're given like the pirate version of.
Have you
jail.
seen a movie or something? Come on, kids.
No,
They're
Everybody
studying
knows
for
what
their
a brig
exams.
is.
but so they go there and the kids start arguing because they're kids. Like, well, why? You're the reason we're in this mess. Like, why'd you pay with that? And it's like, well, what's what we had? And they go at it for a while. They tried to get the little bilge rat to help them out. He just pisses on the key.
Yeah.
And after that, we see, I guess,
We hear a mysterious
we
voice.
hear a mysterious voice. I don't remember his. Yeah, Jod Na Wood.
He has like 5 different names.
Well, yeah, we discover why that is, but we're introduced to Jude Law's character. He happens to be in the same cell, just in the very back, in the dark. And none of the kids bothered to go back there, I guess, to find him or to see if they were alone in there. But he uses the Force and kind of brings the key over. Now, I kind of made mention of this earlier, that they use a different theme here for like the Force.
Yeah.
Which I thought
I didn't pick
was
up
a
on that.
nice change. Different, granted. But because this is a piratey thing, things are a bit more themed towards that. So we get the different music there, and then they break out of jail. And we see just Wim like gush over the fact that he's met a Jedi for the first time. Jedi for the first time.
Yep.
But then we hear, as they're breaking out, that Silvo has escaped the brig.
Mm.
And this is your like clear tell that, okay, this guy is Long John Silver. That's who his character is. And that like after that point, like most of the mystique of this series like left my brain, but
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, this is clearly just Treasure Island.
And so they get to.
But they escape.
Yeah, they escape. Using the little ship there to take them into their ship. What's the name of their ship?
Well,
we end up finding that later.
The Onyx Cinder.
That's it. Yeah, they get to
Not
that.
quite the Black
They're
Pearl,
trying to
but
escape, but
Onyx
they end
Cinder.
up realizing that it's chained up, tied up, spaced, locked up, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it.
It is connected to the docks through a fuel line, I think is what
Was
it
it
was.
a fuel line? I thought
Yeah.
it was actually locked up. It may have been.
No.
It was a
It's-
fuel line
it's a
because it was
line of some
refueling,
sort.
and he makes a joke about it's like this is like the galaxy's most sturdy fuel line because he's trying to fly away and it's still stuck.
Yeah. Anyway, they end up damaging the ship by breaking the fuel line, right?
Mhm. They do, and a lot of others,
Yes.
but
yes.
because of their escape, they now have a bounty on their head, so they're being chased, which gives Jude Law's character a lot of anxiety. Which comes out in different parts of the film, or of the series. I mean,
pretty much in every episode from that
point on.
And that's when they go to the moon, right?
Yes, they go.
Yeah, he
meet
realizes where the
men.
kids are from at Atten.
Well,
and they're
he
trying to
actually
get-
believes them.
Yeah. Well,
which-
he saw the coins, right?
Yeah,
So they're trying to figure out the map to Atten, why they go to the observatory moon,
Yep.
Mhm.
Where we see a freaking.
which was awesome. I live there. Looked cool.
We go to the freaking owl and we find out how many licks it takes to get to the freaking center of Atten.
Yep.
I don't know. I thought it was kind of clever. Have a cool little owl
And-
into mapping.
Into mapping, an old acquaintance for
Very paranoid owl.
yeah.
You say paranoid. I say wise. I think she was pretty
Wise,
She knew
paranoid,
what was
however,
up.
whatever you want to use, that's fine. But
Well, it's like we like she was like the first character that I think the viewers can actually believe when she says like, "Oh, you all shouldn't trust Silvo. You shouldn't trust this guy." Just because he helped you get out doesn't mean you should trust him.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Because every other point before that, it was just like random pirate people. But this is like an outsider that's dealt with Silva before. Be like, hey, don't trust him. Like he's a pirate.
But that's when later on we find out that Wim was it Wim that talks to what's the Al's character's name? Basically
I'm on it.
Al essentially like, hey, if you need some help,
Call me.
You can call me here, give some coordinates and whatnot.
Yeah.
Which ends up
And
happening
then we see
much later
that
on.
they're now also being chased by the New Republic.
Yep.
Kim, maybe?
You say Kim?
Khymm.
Sure.
Sure, let's go with Kim.
It's Kim.
And then we learn Jude Law has another name, Crimson Jack.
Yes.
A lot of the name Crimson is being thrown around the freaking universe.
But yeah, Silva is a man of many names, and they end up going to
Well, they get some coordinates
get some coordinates to
at Aaron.
Aaron.
Something
So
like that.
while they're on the moon with Kim, they discover that all the different planets, there are 6 of them total.
Yep.
All of them were supposed to be hidden from everyone, frankly. And 5 of them had been destroyed or been made mostly inhospitable.
Inhabitable.
Yes. But there was one that simply just vanished from the records entirely, like past like the point that she has, which was at Atten. But we find out that on these other planets that they have coordinates to each other. So we end up on at
Auron, Aaron.
Auron, sure.
Yeah.
I'm bad with these names.
AA man. AA Ron.
Aaron.
AA Ron.
They end up on planet Aaron with the whitest boys you know.
That's so stupid.
That segue sucks. Anyways, they end up there, and this is a war-torn planet. But on this planet, we see also a lot of kids.
Kids everywhere.
Kids everywhere.
Baby making going on in the galaxy.
I guess so. But war-torn with the other group, the Troiks and the...
War everywhere.
War-
a lot of
war
war
is
going on in the
everywhere.
galaxy.
You know, Star Wars.
Hmm.
Yes, there is a war on this star going on actively between 2 gangs. One gang in particular is a gang that views all children as adults. Like, if you are able to help out the war effort, then you do. And this is where we get some character development between Neil and the, I guess, the gang leader's chief's daughter,
Whatever that character's name was.
Yes. And they kind of have a moment of bonding where it's just like, okay, I kind of understand why you're so like weak and pathetic, because y'all have never known strife ever before. But that's also kind of what makes you a good person. So she kind of wishes them well, gives the guy a kiss on the forehead, and just sends them off to the Observer's Tower. Because, funny enough, all of these at planets are all designed the same.
Yep.
For the most part.
Why not?
Why not? Carbon copies of each other.
Yeah, why not?
So they end up in the room, and they find out that there are several the other planets, and that, validates the story they heard from Kim. But then they find the one for at Atten, and it had been destroyed. This is when SM-33 speaks up. It's like, oh, yeah, my old captain told me to break it, and then break anybody else that knew about it.
He was looking for it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's 6 were there pillars?
Yeah, 6 pillars. Each
yeah.
of them had different coordinates to each of the planets.
Each of the planets, but at Athens was
Striked.
Yeah, broken off essentially, and that's when the droid, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, I'm with you. Yep.
Then some of the deep programming within SM-33 triggers, and he attacks the kids. We see Jude Law do a rather kind of clumsy jump at the power button on the back of him.
Yeah.
And we see SM-33 get restrained later on.
Bolted down, essentially, right?
Bolted down, tied up.
Yeah.
He's all kinds of secured. But they do some rewiring. They do some, I guess, protocol reprogramming, and he's back on everyone's side again after that point.
Yeah.
Which I think ties back into they're not spending enough time, I feel like fleshing out things more. They're trying to make it a bit too quick. Because this entire process that we just talked about happens in a single episode of 48 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in every episode, it's very Mandalorian like, they're trying to go from one place to another, but in between that, each individual episode has its own problem, and a small little piece of the puzzle is then filled, getting you to that end spot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I was definitely getting Mandalorian vibes, but that was, every season for the Mandalorian, and it some of the little, episodes were intriguing, kind of cool, then other episodes were obvious fillers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it seemed like for me for most of these episodes. Yeah, there was probably 1 or 2 cool episodes that I was like, okay, that was kind of neat, but the rest of them were just, in fact, fillers and honestly boring. But then we're jumping forward. Now we're at the freaking spa freaking planet.
Yes.
How'd they end up there? I don't remember. Did they just have to stop for some reason?
Well, yes. So he makes mention that the coordinates to at Aten are written down in his old captain's lair.
Oh, that's right.
Which happens to be underneath this spa planet.
Spa. Yeah, you're right.
Which gives SM-33 all kinds of anxiety when he walks up to the planet. She's like, where's all the pirate stuff?
Yeah.
Why is everything so clean and, luxurious? Where's my grungy gold and bar fights and, Coliseum fighting pits?
Yeah. And that's when they go into the freaking, hotel, I guess we'll call it.
Yeah, they go through the hotel.
And they go to the front desk, and they try and get into a place, or get into the place, essentially, and that's where, one of the bounty hunters recognizes freaking Silvo.
Yeah.
And tells him, hey, you got a bounty on your head. Right? She tells him. Yeah.
Yeah, uses one of his other names that we've only hear in this episode ever. Because apparently Silvo had thrown her into a pit full of weird space leeches and left her for dead. But naturally, she lived to be really pissed off at him.
Yeah,
so
did Boba Fett, just saying.
Yeah, fall damage doesn't exist. Anyways, she naturally tells the pirates where he is.
That put out the bounty, yeah.
And then they all come running for him.
Yeah.
But not before we get kind of a very awkward chase sequence where they rather easily just kind of get away from them.
Yeah.
And then they're underground going through the tunnels, and they discover that, oh, hey, Captain What's-His-Name left a lot of traps down here.
Yeah.
All of which are conveniently adult-hided because there's a decapitating laser trap that, none of the kids even have to duck for.
Doesn't remind you about of Indiana Jones whatsoever.
No.
Nothing about Indiana Jones or freaking the Goonies from this moment on. There's
Yeah,
no
the more I
freaking-
think about it, they stole a lot of shit from other things.
A lot of stuff
a
is
lot of shit. Inspired, is that what we're gonna use? Yes, a lot of that scene was inspired from other films. Correct, it was inspired, not stolen. Inspired,
You know,
because it's different. Because it's lasers, not spears coming out of the wall that freaking spear you through the freaking chest and head.
Now, this is another sequence where I wish they would have put more time into because, again, they go through all of this in about 10 minutes where, they make a big deal that they put a lot of traps in here, but then they only show you 4 of them. We see the lasers. We see the acid pit.
That was kind of cool. I like the acid.
The pirates that are following them see, honestly, one of the more intriguing traps with the gravity reverse spike pit.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was cool.
That was interesting.
But then we also see the little trap, the trap seat.
Oh yeah.
Which ends up not really being a trap, but it close enough, right?
Yep.
So we see that Silvo kind of finds a hologram viewer thing that then proves that at Atten exists because all this time he is
just hearing about it, right?
Just hearing about it, and it's just kind of following, I guess, the breadcrumbs. But now it's it's actually there. There's proof.
Yep, the hologram of the captain.
Of the old captain, and then gets all kinds of treasure. He gets the coordinates to Atten, most importantly. But there's also a lightsaber in here.
There's also a lightsaber, and that's when a mutiny occurs, essentially.
Yes. Not really even a mutiny. He does everything correctly. He follows the pirate code and challenges the captain to hand-to-hand combat to the death for a right to be captain. And SM-33, ever loyal to the pirate code, it's just no, I can't really do anything about that. They're he's in, that's his right to do. And then he beats up a bunch of kids and becomes the new captain.
Well, they escaped through that trap door, right?
Which totally could have killed them, by the way.
That
would have been hilarious.
Plot armor.
There's a fan cut, a fan edit where they all just fall into a spike pit instead of what we discover is more or less an emergency escape chute that the old captain had put in because it literally just spits them out at the bottom of the mountain.
Yep. Along with a bunch of other trash.
Yes. So from there, we see that Silvo goes back topside but gets caught by the pirates pursuing them, and he gets taken aboard their ship while leaving the Onyx Cinder, as we discover. Yep. Is what their ship is called, at the port of the luxury place. And this is where we get our first big argument between all the kids amongst themselves.
About what they should do.
Whether they should climb the mountain or follow the trash crabs.
Yawn.
Which I'm on team trash crabs.
Yeah, why would you climb that? Yeah.
It was a ladder.
It was a clear ladder.
It was a freaking ladder.
Nope. I'll take my chances with the crabs.
Yeah. But trash crabs, clearly marketable. Also, love those guys. But
then you meet the mother trash crab.
Then Mother Crab is pissed off and hungry, I guess.
Getting hungry right now. Just thinking about it.
God, when was the last time you had crab?
I got some crab in the fridge.
Never mind.
Yeah, moving on.
Fair enough. But we see them argue, and we see the sides get drawn, and this really doesn't mean much between the two boys, but the two girls take it the worst. So KB, I guess we haven't really talked about this a whole lot. KB is a girl / cyborg that was in an accident in her younger years that now is basically runs and survives through her augments, or her augs, as she calls them. Mm-hmm. Well, going through a place full of humidity and salt and stuff that tends to corrode electronics. So she's having a bad time with it. So without really telling her friend Fern that, oh, hey, chances are if I try to climb that ladder, I'm going to die, she decides to go with Wim instead, while Neil goes off with Fern. But while they're doing their stuff with the trash crabs, she starts to break down. So she has the moment where it's like, okay, I'm going to tell you how to save my life, and I need you to do exactly what I say. Please don't fuck this up, because I'm going to die otherwise.
Yeah.
So they go through that sequence, and all is good. And we get this big moment of KB being like, I just wish Fern would realize that I can't do everything she can. So we get, like, this is where we start getting more and more of, like, character development. This is the character development episode.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Neil and Fern are freaking climbing the ladder.
And Fern's pissed that Neil can't keep up, and she's just like, Neil's just like, I can't physically reach this rung.
I am
like,
literally 2 feet tall.
Like
These
these
rungs are 3 feet apart.
My legs and arms are too stubby. I am a blue elephant alien thing. Like, what do you want from me? Not everybody is like you.
Well,
and that's when Fern starts to kind of realize, like, okay, maybe I'm putting too much expectations on people. Like, that's her development.
Yeah. Been there, done that.
So
her
idea is just to drag them up with a rope to, like, assist.
Yep.
Which works out for a while. So they make it up there, and their
ship
is being basically repoed to the junkyard.
Yeah.
Which happens to be where, trash crabs are, and the other two. So that's how they get saved from Mama Crab. Is ship comes in, scares everybody off.
But then they crash it,
naturally. Then we see one of the more intimidating ships / machine designs in the franchise so far, which is the junkyard bot that's just, like, crawling and, like, devouring everything. And they're panicking naturally. They're like, oh, we need to leave, but how do we do this without SM-33 to do it? So this is our big, like, okay, the kids are, like, half believing in themselves, like they've been taught how to do some things. They're going to try to not die horribly here. So we have Wim go up on the guns to try to save them. We have KB trying to fix the engine. We have the other two trying to steer / turn on the thing.
Remember that button you're not supposed to push, Kenny?
Remember that button you're not supposed to push, Jake? Do you remember what that button does?
I don't know. Well, yeah.
Okay, well, the button just is the whole detachment sequence. But that's when we realize that the ship has 2 holes on it. It has an outer layer of armor because that's how they initially thought they were going to have to get through the barrier at Aden. But the ship detaches all that. It's new. It's sleek. It's shiny silver. That's also when we discover, okay, this is an old Republic ship that the old captain somehow stole, and that's the actual reason why it's able to go in and out of the barrier, because it's a Republic ship. Yep. And the barrier is designed to literally electrocute anything that is not Republic based.
There's your plot armor right there for you.
Like,
but it's clever.
But
It's clever. Like, right. I'll admit that that's clever. Like, you push a button and the whole hull of the ship basically detached, and a new found ship comes. It's like a phoenix.
Sure,
maybe a little bit of a stretch.
a little bit of a stretch, but we see them escape, but they get caught immediately by the pirates. So then Silvo and the kids are back together again. And quite frankly, they're are about to kill Silvo, but then some random human lady is just like, but what about the pirate code?
That was my worst. that was my least favorite part of the whole series was how he
like,
doesn't
what
die
about
by
the
the
pirate
pirates.
code?
Because they build it up like, oh, we're going to find them. And we're going to kill them. And justice and pirate. And like, they find them. They're like, it had very Guardians of the Galaxy vibe to it. With Peter Quill getting.
No, I see what you're saying.
It's like,
okay.
Yeah.
But they use the I guess I'm kind of jumping ahead. They use the
The sand dial, plasma dial.
yeah, to capture the freaking Wolfman.
That, yeah.
The Wolfman thing.
Yeah, they do that, but then, Silvo, being a pirate, kills Brutus, the Wolfman, the ex-captain, because he's dead now, and becomes the captain of the vessel. Well, naturally, because pirate code states that only one person can be the captain of one vessel at a time, he has to choose, like, okay, am I going to be the captain of the big pirate ship or the ship that's able to go down to at Atten, which we discover at this point as well that at Atten is a planet that has a Old Republic mint in it, meaning that it produces money for the Old Republic. Which, at that point, I'm going to make an argument here in a couple minutes with Jake, but...
Do it.
Right? But he decides to become the captain of the Onyx Cinder again so that they can go down. And they arrive. They end up getting a transmission buoy, basically, that gives the kids a message from their parents being like, hey, we miss you. We're sorry. We're a bunch of assholes to you guys. But, come back home. We miss you. We love you. All that jazz. And this is where we get the sinister bit of like, oh, well, now I know who to talk to make my hostage situation work even better from Silvo. So he takes full advantage of it. And he plays it off that he is a Republic emissary, finally showing up. Like 800 years later, we find out. From when this planet was originally, hidden off.
They've just been there 800 years making money.
Well, we find out because when they work their way down to the vaults where all of the old coins are kept, he asked one of the robots, how many vaults are there like this? And he says literally hundreds of thousands of these are on this planet, which I don't fully understand because that planet doesn't even seem all that large. But scaling aside,
Yeah, but
there's a lot of money on this planet, which if you were to take all that money, not only do you kind of devalue all the coins just using because you hyperinflate the circulation of them, but it's just that's enough money to start an economy, let alone just
We're talking about the galaxy here, though, Kenny. The galaxy.
the galaxy is pretty big. I understand what you're saying, but you don't have to take it all and freaking
It's like
give it
diamonds.
out there.
They're like diamonds.
just sporadically use them.
yeah, but who's
Throughout
got
the
time for that? Not Silvo.
I mean,
I like the scene that, once again, it reminds me of something else. It was inspired by Lord of the Rings, I think. I like the scene when he's rolling around in the gold coins. He's playing with it. Reminded me of the dragon in Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit.
Oh, where
the
where all the
Hobbit.
coins are falling off of the thing,
Freaking
and he's
Smaug.
just gushing over it. It's just
Droid's just over there just chilling,
Just-
watching them.
it's a
just
freaking,
watching them with his camera, be like,
freaking
should I
sickness.
leave? But we get all of that. But Silvo finds out that he has a problem.
Sure does.
He can't get his other ship in because the other ship is not a Republic ship. So this entire time, he's thinking that the supervisor, the one in charge of At-Aten, is a human being. So it's just like, oh, finally, I'll be able to work with like a human, somebody that I can easily like exploit because, you know, I have hostages. Right. They get up to the supervisor's room and they discover, well, Silvo discovers, all the parents know, but that the supervisor is a droid, a rather large droid. Like the droid is the size of the room. And they get talking, and this is where Silvo makes an error, saying that A, he's a Jedi, and that B, he's part of the Republic. Well, the robot knows that Order 66 happened, meaning that the Republic was to consider all Jedis as traitors and harmful to the Republic, which is why all of the clones triggered and all of that. We know how that goes. But the robot asks him, like, which one is a lie, which he then gets promptly stabbed in his, like, glowing red eye cortex by the lightsaber from Silvo, basically saying that neither are correct. He doesn't even answer the question. And he kills the supervisor.
Yep.
Power goes out for the city, and I guess the initial bit of the barrier, part of the barrier at least, this part's not explained terribly well, but that ship is able to come in.
And basically start shooting shit and blowing shit up.
Yeah. The pirates start to do their piratey thing. They raid, they start gathering people up, they try to loot and burn what they can.
I love how during that whole sequence, Neil's just in the freaking bathtub.
He's just in a tub. It's just
Freaking-
like, oh.
So
Yeah.
just keep in mind from now on, folks, that if you're ever in the bathtub,
When the power goes out,
or
you're not
when the
allowed.
power goes out, you might want to get out immediately because chances are
Pirates.
you're getting attacked by pirates. Yeah.
Right. But the kids, being adventurous, are come up with a plan. To like, okay, if we can deactivate the barrier, we can contact Kim. The Republic will finally know where this planet is, and they'll be able to show up and deal with the pirates. Like the actual good guys, as Wim calls them.
Yeah.
But that's a multi-step plan. So first they have to get to the Onyx Cinder, which they get to. But then the Onyx Cinder is clamped down to the docks because of, docking clamps. But they can't take them off because power's been deactivated with the death of the supervisor. So they have to find a way to reroute power. Well, this is where we have like the only bit of character development from Wim's dad. Granted, he's only ever in 2 episodes. 3 episodes where they have any plot, actually, for the parents. And he's just like, oh, well, I'm a level 7 systems operator. Like, I could easily do this. So he shows off to his son that's like, oh, hey, I'm capable. Like, you know, after realizing that his son is, like, becoming capable and is able to kind of function on his own, that he, too, has, like, a skill set, and it happens to be, like, oh, I know how to turn the power on. So they go through that sequence. So then we have Wim, Silvo, whatever Fern's mom's called, and then Fern, all in the same room. So they had to come up with a BS story to distract Silvo long enough for Wim's father to turn the power back on. He does. That works. But he gets caught like pretty quickly because, A, he can use the Force, and takes kind of full use of that to abuse the hell out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a lightsaber and a kid as a hostage with a lightsaber to, like, you know, their throat. So rather convincing. But the mother that entire time is doing her best to tell the kids that the barrier is, you know, doesn't need to come down. Like the barrier is there to, like, protect them, and it has always been there and protecting them. but the kids are just like, there's more out there. Like there's more out there. It's like, just because we have some like a bad situation going on now, like, there are good out in the galaxy. So after kind of like a moment where all the parents kind of recognize that the kids are right, they work together to try to turn everything off. And that's where we get the interesting choice where Silva has to decide, it's like, okay, is he going to try to keep using his attention to like hold the parents in place from trying to pull the switch, pull the lever to turn the barrier off, or like, try to get his lightsaber back because he gets disarmed.
Mm-hmm.
So we see that play out, and as you can imagine, the barrier goes down, and the Republic comes in, saves the day. And that's kind of where I agree with Jay, because we don't actually see what happens to Silva. He just stands there in the room watching his pirate ship that he just became the captain of crash and burn.
The ending was so stupid. The whole thing was
Right? We get a moment where we see all the kids reunite. KB having survived her plane crash, which I forgot to mention.
Yeah, who cares?
It's like you knew where this was going. Like everyone was surviving at this point. But we see that KB survives the crash. We see that a SM-33 is still functional because lightsabers are like the cleanest cut you can ever get in terms of just severing anything. So they're able just to rewire SM-33 to work, even though his head is in his hands.
It cauterizes the wound for you.
Yeah, but it also cauterizes wires and electronics.
Yeah, that's an easy fix.
Easy fix. Because KB can fix anything.
Yeah. Duh. God, Kenny.
I'm starting to ramble at this point. But yeah, no, the series just ends there with a joke of, oh, hey, at least you don't have to take an assessment anymore. But then you see Wim staring up at the X-Wings fly over, and you're like, okay, this kid's going to become a pilot now.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, that's where they could potentially go with that later on if there is, in fact, a season 2.
Possibly. I don't know where they would go with it because, again, just going off of Treasure Island.
Yeah, I don't think there's gonna be season 2. I think that's just
it's done.
Yeah.
Like the
I don't know where you
the
go.
show did what it needed to do, and that was to tell the story of Treasure Island with a Star Wars slap of paint on it, with some inspiration from the Goonies.
Yeah,
Heavy inspiration.
And Indiana Jones.
And Indiana Jones.
and Lord of the Rings.
And Lord of the Rings.
Fine. But
So y'all don't think there's going to be a season 2?
they could go that route, but there doesn't need to be one. I think this actually, like, there's no cliffhanger.
Yeah, it just really did just end. Like,
It just ends.
I wouldn't be upset if there was a season 2, but at the same time, like, where would they go? Like,
Like,
are they gonna jump ahead a few years where the kids are now gonna be older because they went through freaking puberty in like 3 months since the show's ended?
Yeah.
So they're like, that's something they could do is they age them a few years, obviously due to that, and then make a Goonies 2, since there actually is gonna be a Goonies 2.
Yeah, I don't know where they could go with it.
But I do.
At least keeping the whole cast together seems quite difficult. I could see maybe some future where they pick one of the kids to become a Jedi or something. But
There's
I
just
don't know.
they're trying really hard to start this new generation of Jedi, and I've mentioned this before in other episodes. With the last movie, they ended it with the kid with the using the Force to get the broom.
Yeah.
So they're obviously trying for that new generation of Jedi, whether that's 5 years after Return of the Jedi or the New Republic or even further BBY down the road.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll see what happens.
What frustrates me about that, I agree 100% with you, Colin. And it mimics Marvel, right? They're trying to find this new generation of people, these actors, to pick up the series. And Star Wars is the same way. And like, it frustrates me. It's like, you just know it's because of financial reasons. It's like they don't want to pay some of these actors the amount of salary that they would have to like get them returned. But I would urge Star Wars to be careful.
That's the cost of doing business, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you're in the movie industry, freaking either pay the actors what they're freaking worth, or freaking bring in a new generation of Jedi and freaking pay them less, because it doesn't have anything to do with freaking the Skywalker freaking era of the movies. This is like a freaking new midichlorian freaking developed freaking kid or some bullshit, or maybe this one freaking just, I don't know, like maybe this is Yoda's great grandchild. I don't know.
Baby Yoda.
Yeah, like freaking Grogu essentially is now
Grogu.
Grogu opened his own freaking temple and is abducting children and teaching them the Jedi ways. I don't know.
Right.
Obviously, that's a stretch.
It
I don't
is.
know. Yeah. So
But
I'm thinking I'd watch a season 2.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
I
Like,
think we
I'd
all
watch
would,
it.
but
I would
don't
definitely
see
watch
how
it.
I think
and
there
I would-
is going to be one.
Yeah.
The show did what it needed to do,
Which was end abruptly.
which I think I'm honestly okay with
God.
in a weird way. It's like, we've already gone over it. It's like, like this is a
No, you in fact stated that already, but the way you put it out there just then was freaking just beautiful.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Terps. I'm kidding.
That
guys,
note, we are going to end abruptly. See ya.
on that note, we're in abruptly.
No, we are not ending abruptly. Abruptly. This is not the freaking Sopranos.
Alrighty. Well, okay,
Um,
but actual closing thoughts here.
Closing thoughts. Season 2. I'd watch it. If they don't, it won't hurt my feelings. Jake.
Closing thoughts. Like the planets, the plot was a little too childish for me. 75% score.
It needed more pirates. Well, like if this was closer to Treasure Planet instead of closer to Treasure Island, I think I would have been more enthused with this show. But alas,
Fair enough. Colin?
this is where we went with it.
Well, thank you all for playing with us, listening. Feel free to give us.
Where can they find us?
Oh, that's what I was getting at.
Oh.
Mhm.
Feel free to join us anytime. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Give us a like. Give us a follow. Give us a comment. If you like this episode, let us know. If you didn't, definitely let us know. And also, fuck you. Who cares? But, yeah, we'll see y'all next time. And this month is definitely going to have some more material coming your way. See y'all later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.